DML Part 4 of 4. In this nugget, we bring to a conclusion our 4-part mini-series on using data manipulation language statements in MySQL 5. Here we bring things to a close by using the powerful delete statement, which, as we'll learn, is used to delete or remove one or more rows from one or more tables in your MySQL database. I'll also show you the excellent truncate table statement, which has a key difference in action from delete. Hang on to your hats to learn specifically what that difference is. Let's get rocking. So what's the deal with the delete statement? As I already mentioned, delete is what you'd use to remove records from a database. And it shares, when I say it, I refer to delete, shares many similarities in its use to update. Actually, they're very similar. Let's look at code sample 1. If we run delete from the people table, where empid equals 101, just like we could basically substitute one word here if we were doing an update, syntax is exactly the same. Well, it's not exactly the same. You'll remember that update had the set statement. Delete doesn't use the set statement. But the basic flow is the same, where we're specifying an operation on a target table, and then we have the all-important where clause that delineates the scope of the deletion. So here, employee ID 101 and all of the other row data for that record would be removed from the table immediately. You can also delete more than one record. Again, it's just a question of you judiciously and accurately using your where clause. If we wanted to remove all of the entries in the people database where the age was less than 18, we would simply run delete from people where age is less than 18, and those records are gone. You can use between and if you wanted to remove records where the ID is between 1 and 50. You would just specify where ID between 1 and 50. Pretty straightforward, right? You'll recall in our previous nugget I told you about the safe updates option, which prohibits use of the update or delete statements that don't include the where clause. So just be aware, I'll put a little asterisk here. Remember, the Safe Updates option is available for use in your option file or at the session level. Similarly, again, to update, we have multi-table delete capability. So in code sample 3, we're saying delete T1 from not one but two tables, T1 and T2, where the ID matches the ID in either table. So the user-friendly summary of what this statement does is that it's going to delete rows from T1 where the ID matches those in T2. And that could be a pretty devastating deletion if the IDs match row by row. Code sample 4 is even more powerful. Delete T1, T2 from T1, T2 on those matching fields. This is going to delete all matching records in not one table, but both of them. Yeah, delete is really powerful, friends. I guess I don't have to tell you that. And again, to repeat, since there's no undo in MySQL, once you delete a row or more than one row, those rows and that data is gone forever unless you have a backup, preferably a recent one, of that data. It's for this reason that many DBAs are loath to ever delete, but instead what they'll do is copy data out of a table and put it into an archive table off to the side, just so it's there. You see what I'm saying? How about emptying a table? Here we're going to learn about the truncate table command. In my little note here, table is optional refers to the truncate statement, not to the drop statement. These commands are often confused, so it's important for you to understand the distinction actually between those two and the delete statement. As we learned, delete operates on individual rows and enables you as a DBA to nuke those rows. If you know that you just want to delete all data from a table, just empty the table completely and leave its empty schema shell, instead of running a delete statement with a where clause, you can issue truncate table and then the destination table name. And this has the effect of nuking every record in the entire table. It keeps the table object, but it removes all the data in it. And there's many reasons why you might want to use truncate table. In most cases, you'd use this in a development environment where you just want to reset a table to its empty default. Possibly you could use it in a production environment as well for a temporary table or just as a storehouse table to store scratch data that can be purged safely in one fell swoop. You'll recall that in order to remove the table object itself from your database, we use the ddl command drop table, and that would remove not just the rows if there were any row data in there, but it would actually remove the table object and remove some files from the file system like the .frm file that defines the schema of the table, the myd, and any associated index files, myi, at least if you're using the myisom storage engine. In our demonstration, we're going to take our theory and put it into practice. We're going to use the delete statement to remove one or more rows from a table. We're going to work with truncate table and drop table just to ensure, in summary, that you're comfortable with using all of those statements in a MySQL 5 environment. In this demonstration, we're going to work with the delete and truncate table statements in MySQL 5. I've logged into MySQL Nugget. In particular, I've logged into MySQL Server, and I'm using a test database called TestDB that I created a nugget or so ago. And in this TestDB, I have two tables, emp and emp new. So let's just run a select star against emp to see what's there. And what if we needed to remove Kevin Van Hooser here from the emp list? Let's say he left the company. How can we do that cleanly and efficiently? Well, we know now how to use the delete command. The syntax is delete from table name, and then of course the all-powerful where id equals 4 in this case, is all we need to do to remove Kevin from the database. If we want to be a little bit more dramatic, we could say delete from emp where salary is less than 100,000. Now, what do you think is going to happen here? You can see here that we have two employees who have a salary of less than 100,000. Sure enough, the query went through and two rows were affected. Now we have just a single record left in this table. As you can see, I've added a couple more rows back into emp. In particular, you see that we have two folks with the last name of Ramos. Now, what if we wanted to delete Kelly Ramos from this particular table? Of course, we could use delete from where id equals 7, but I wanted to take this opportunity to show you how to do a delete using limit and order by. This is going to reinforce what we learned in the previous nugget. So we could say delete from emp where last name equals Ramos. Of course, if we just execute this batch, we're going to lose both David Ramos and Kelly Ramos from the table. However, we learned that we can specify order by. In this case, if we needed Kelly to come first, how could we do this? We could say order by first name descending, and then we could use the limit 1 to ensure that only one row is deleted. So if we do first name descending, then that would put Kelly above David and make sure that her record is hit first by MySQL. And that looked like it went through just fine. So sure enough, Kelly Ramos's record is gone. You may have noticed that when we made deletions to emp and then I added some new records in, you noticed that the ID value continued to auto-increment as if I hadn't deleted any records at all. I wonder what would happen, and I'll ask you to join me in this. What will happen in terms of our ID values if we decide to truncate or clear out all the values in this table? So if we say truncate table emp, and notice that that just happened immediately. Of course, we don't have anything left in that table, but we can verify that emp still exists. All of its column definitions and schema are just fine. What do you think would happen if we insert a new record into emp using the default ID value? I'll just fill in the rest of this. Use the default salary value. You notice that truncate table will actually reset the ID value, whereas, of course, deleting individual rows, even if you used the delete statement and removed every row in the table, the next insert would still auto-increment that number. So just be aware of that, the fact that the delete statement and the truncate table statement have that effect on resetting or not resetting any columns that use the auto increment property. We'll finish this brief demo with the drop statement. We'll show our tables again, and this time let's work with emp new. See what's there right now. Looks like there's 4 records. If we issue the command drop table emp new, just absolutely no hesitation. If we now try to select from emp new, of course it tells us testdb.empnew doesn't exist. Show tables reveals that that table's gone. And if we were to check our datadir, I promise you that we don't have a form file or an MYD file for that table anymore. Data Manipulation Language, DML, Part 4 of 4 Review. At this point, I think you should really clap yourself on the back, because if you understand what we've been doing in the last 4 nuggets, you have a really great grasp of the vast majority of what you'll do in terms of manipulating data in a MySQL database. Specifically in this nugget, we examined the delete statement and the truncate table statements. I hope you're clear on their use, their syntax, and the distinction between them. I hope that this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.